Hey guys, so this can be an endgame PV sorc DPS build, and it's useful for trials and bed DSA. Um, it's called Kitty's app because I have a friend, Kitty Nap, and she always used to joke around and send me necropotence pieces because I thought they were useless. So eventually I decided to try them out, and it actually works pretty well on a sorc. So this build's named after her. Hope you guys enjoy. So here's some parses to show you the capabilities of this build. Keep in mind I'm still pretty new to it, so the DPS is going to improve, but it's pretty good already. First thing is restoring Twilight. This is a big DPS boost. It does around 1.4k DPS, so it's really nice. Gives you magicka regeneration, and since it's a pet, it procs a necropotence set, which gives you 10% more magicka, because this is a magicka stacking build. Then we have Bound Aegis. It increases your armor and spell resist, and also gives you 8% max magicka, which is huge. Inner Light, again, gives you your spell crit and max magicka. Then we have Force Pulse, which is your main spam ability. You're going to spam it with medium attacks and weave it. And then we have Crystal Fragments. So it's a big nuke. Only use it when it procs, so you get that instant cast, and it adds quite a bit of DPS. Finally, we have Meteor. So this is only slotted, so you get 2% more magicka from the Mage's Guild passive. For potions, I use the Panacea of Detection, so if you don't know this already, they're not broken like the other spell power pots. You can use them whenever you want without breaking a weave, so they still give the sorcery and magicka back. Second bar is our 3 toggles again, and then we have Liquid Lightning. So this is a really OP dot for sorcs. It's really powerful, and for some reason it boosts some of our spell damage on some abilities, so just keep that down whenever the mob's going to last more than 10 seconds. Then we have Thundering Presence, so it's basically the magic equivalent of Caltrops, so you throw it down and you can forget about it for 23 seconds. It also adds a good chunk of armor and spell resist, and does decent damage, so definitely worth having on your bar if you can. If you are doing Sanctum, you can put, this is kind of a utility slot, you can put Siege Shield or Purge there to drain magicka. And then finally, the beauty of it all, Overload. So Overload is really OP right now for sorcs. You want to charge it up to 1,000 before you go into a boss, and you can just go God mode for a while. Since the magicka pool on this build is so large, like 45k, the tooltip is really big because ultimate scale off of magicka, so you're going to be hitting insane overloads. It's pretty great actually. So the overload bar, when you activate it, you're going to have your 3 toggles again, so they don't get disabled. Liquid Lightning you want to keep down because it's an amazing DOT. And I keep Mage's Wrath here because how Overload works is it takes a picture, a snapshot, of whatever stats you had on your non-overload bar, and then transfers it. So if you keep your execute on this bar, you can run Thundering Presence on your 2-hander bar, and you'll still get the extra damage from the 2-hander on your overload bar, if that makes sense. Another thing you can do about the large magicka pool in Sanctum is, instead of running Siege Shield, you can just drain your magicka to 0 before you go in with Thundering Presence, and then take the non-magicka return morph of Overload, and you should be golden. So one last thing, you may notice there's no AoE on this bar, so I generally switch in and out when I need it. A lot of times Liquid Lightning and Force Pulse can do the trick if there's only 2 or 3 mobs up, but I put Impulse or Pulsar there when I'm doing bad DSA, so that's where your AoE goes, because you can swap out frags. Another trick is on your overload bar, instead of having the execute in bad DSA, you can run Mines, Daedric Mines, and that's a really nice ground AoE for AoEing the spawns. So for our attributes, we have 62 points in magicka, which gives us around, wait, that's not right. Yeah, okay. So around 45k magicka and on your main bar, and that puts you at around 16k health, which is more than enough to survive any of the content in the game, if you're comfortable with it. If you're not, just put some points into health, And with PvP buffs, it's even higher. It's like 18k, so not a problem. You're going to want to run the Apprentice Stone, because a 5% penetration on Trials bosses is hard to pass up. And magicka and blue food for your food. So for the gear, what you want is, first of all, 5-piece necropotence. So you want 5 pieces in your set, and then you want a medium and a heavy piece to proc the Undaunted passive. So I have a medium helm and a heavy shoulders in Thorax, so you get spell damage. And both these should be divines, but whatever. The necklace is any necklace that has the arcane trait, so it increases max magicka. It's not actually part of the set. And then we have Cyrodiil's light rings, so these add spell damage, and all my jewelry is enchanted with spell damage. My staff is the Master's Inferno staff, since it gives max magicka, and the sharpen trait for sure, because it gives around 70% penetration right now. And on my off bar, I have a Master's Greatsword, so this increases weapon and spell damage as well, so it's pretty OP right now. I have the weighted trait, but if I could have a better trait, I would. So precise or sharpened. So yeah, for champion system, what you're gonna want to do is dump all your points in elemental expert pretty much, except 1 point in elfborn, 1 point in spell erosion, and maybe 1 point in staff expert. I kind of have this messed up right now, but it's okay. The reason why is someone did the math on the German forums, and around 0.1% elemental expert equals 0.6% of elfborn or staff expert. So you pretty much want to max elemental expert before you start putting points in elfborn and staff expert. And then for the red trees, some points in block expertise, so you can block cast, spell resistance, and then don't put too many points in light armor focus because it degrades quickly. These are the two most important passives, Hardy and Elemental Defender. Hardy is your Sanctum one, so it decreases poison damage and magic damage, and then Elemental Defender is kind of vet DSA, all the elements, plus Sanctum shock damage. So you want to have a lot of points in both of those. And then you want just the cost reduction Magician. Dump most of your points in there, and then some points in Arcanist once you get high enough. So in terms of rotation, what you're going to want to do is first start by activating your Thundering Presence, and then putting down Liquid Lightning, and then going into a Force Pulse Medium Weave. So you do half heavy attack, Force Pulse, half heavy attack, Force Pulse, and then whenever Crystal Fragments comes up, you weave it in, and yeah, you build your ult until it's sufficiently high. You can be the judge of that depending on the fight, and then switch to your overload bar, and try and use up most of your overload before the boss reaches 20%, because then you can just Mage's Wrath, and although it's not exactly the same DPS, it's still a pretty good DPS, so it's better than your normal wave. So just use up most of your overload before you get to 20, but don't use your overload so it's under 60, because then you won't be able to execute on this bar because you can't activate it. And yeah, if your Twilight shouldn't die, mine rarely ever dies in Sanctum, but if it does, refresh it in a time where you're either moving or not doing anything else. It's not totally imperative to have it up, it's just a really nice DPS boost. But yeah.